In the dim, dry landscape of ancient Canaan, a young woman named Dinah stepped out of her father's tent, her heart as curious as the world around her. She was the daughter of Leah, one of Jacob's wives, and she was about to embark on a journey that would change the course of her life and the destiny of her family. Little did she know, her decision to venture out among the daughters of the land would set in motion a chain of events that would ripple through generations, leaving an indelible mark on the history of her people. Jacob, the patriarch of this growing family, had finally returned to the land of his ancestors after a long and arduous journey from Padan Aram. He had crossed the Jordan River, settling in Succoth, a place just outside the Canaanite town where he would take up residence. This return marked the end of a long and winding path, a path filled with trials and tribulations, but also with the promise of a new beginning. For Jacob, this was more than just a physical return. It was a spiritual and emotional homecoming, a reclaiming of his birthright and his place in the world. Dinah, however, was oblivious to the weight of her father's journey. She was young, perhaps in her early teens, and the world beyond the safety of her father's camp was a place of mystery and allure. She had grown up hearing stories of the land and its people, but now she wanted to see it for herself. So, one day she ventured out, her steps light and her heart full of anticipation. The town of Shechem was not far from where Jacob and his family had settled. It was a bustling place, filled with the sounds of daily life, the clatter of pottery, the bleating of sheep, and the laughter of children. Dinah's curiosity was piqued, and she moved through the streets, her eyes wide with wonder. She was a stranger in this land, but she felt a sense of belonging, a connection to the earth and the people around her. It was in this moment of vulnerability and curiosity that she caught the eye of Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite prince. Shechem was a powerful figure in the town, a young man of privilege and influence. When he saw Dinah, something in him stirred. She was different from the other girls he knew, with a grace and a spirit that captivated him. Without a second thought, he took her, forcing her into his home and violating her in the most profound way. The act was swift and brutal, a violation of Dinah's body and her dignity. Shechem's actions were not those of a man in love, but of a man driven by desire and entitlement. He took what he wanted, without regard for the consequences or the pain he inflicted. For Dinah, this moment was a shattering of her innocence, a trauma that would stay with her for the rest of her life. When Jacob learned of what had happened to his daughter, he was silent. His silence was not a sign of indifference, but of shock and grief. He knew that this act of violence would have far-reaching consequences, not just for Dinah, but for the entire family. His sons, who were out tending to the livestock, returned to find their father in a state of deep distress. They were enraged, their anger boiling over at the thought of their sister being violated. Hamor, Shechem's father, came to Jacob, hoping to smooth over the incident. He proposed a marriage between Shechem and Dinah, offering to forge an alliance between their families. He spoke of unity and mutual benefit, of how the two families could coexist and thrive together. But his words fell on deaf ears. Jacob's sons were not interested in a peaceful resolution. They were consumed by a desire for vengeance. They agreed to the marriage, but on one condition. Every male in Shechem's town must be circumcised. Circumcision was a sacred rite for Jacob's family, a symbol of their covenant with God. By demanding this of the Hivites, Jacob's sons were not only imposing their own religious practices, but also setting the stage for a trap. They knew that the pain and vulnerability of the circumcision would leave the men of Shechem defenseless. 3 days later, while the men of Shechem were still in pain, Jacob's sons Simon and Levi took matters into their own hands. They entered the town, swords in hand, and slaughtered every male. They killed Hamor and Shechem, freed Dinah, and looted the town, taking whatever they could carry. The violence was swift and brutal, a reflection of their deep-seated anger and sense of betrayal. Jacob was appalled by the actions of his sons. He feared that their violent response would draw the wrath of the surrounding Canaanite and Perizzite tribes, putting the entire family in danger. He confronted Simon and Levi, accusing them of bringing shame and potential destruction upon the family. But Simon and Levi were unapologetic. They had acted out of a sense of justice, they said, to avenge the wrong done to their sister. They would not allow Dinah to be treated like a prostitute. They declared, their words filled with a mix of righteous indignation and raw emotion. The story of Dinah and the events that followed are a stark reminder of the complexities of human nature and the consequences of our actions. It is a story of violence and revenge, but also of love and family loyalty. It is a story that has been interpreted and reinterpreted over the centuries, each generation finding new meanings and lessons in its pages. In the end, the story of Dinah is not just about one young woman's tragedy, but about the broader themes of justice, honor, and the struggle for identity and belonging in a world that can be cruel and unforgiving. It is a story that echoes through the ages, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit in the face of adversity.